So probably about this close, I'm guessing, yeah? Are these already hot to where we can hear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, you'll be able to hear yourself. And you'll be able to hear me.
Test. Sibilus. Check.
And you have 2 and 3.
1, 2, 3.
Welcome to the Slightly Serious Sign Podcast, brought to you by Wensco Sign Supply, the #1 podcast in the sign and graphics industry for news, events, new products, and customer success stories. If you want to know what's going on or you want to grow your sign shop, you're in the right place. Here is one, some, or all of your hosts, Mike, Tyler, and Domingo. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Slightly Serious Sign Podcast. We're here at ISA, so if it sounds a little different, there's a little background noise. The show's actually live. We're on day 2. We're at 10 a.m. here, so the show's been live for about 30 minutes here. We're here on site doing some episodes that we probably wouldn't get to do otherwise. So I have some guests here. I'll let them introduce themselves and talk about some pretty cool products. You'll see some of them behind them. So if they look a little blown out, you'll know why in a second. So do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Who are you? How long you've been in the industry, and what your current role is, and kind of what we got going on here in the booth?
Sure. My name is Paul Johnston. I'm the Global Strategic Vice President for Unilumin USA. And I've been in the industry for over 35 years. Worked in the manufacturing circuit as well as in the cinema space for the majority of my career. So,
perfect.
Well, my name is Chad Engstrom. I'm with Electro-Matic Visual. I spent the last 14 years in digital displays, and I've entered my 25th year in the sign industry. Got a fairly broad background within the sign business, and I enjoy it and look for another 10 or 15 more years of doing this.
Yeah. We always joke that once you get in the sign industry, you never get out. So the only option you have is just to move parallelly here. There's no option. There's no out anymore. Anyone that tries to leave ends up coming back. So a lot of experience between the two of you. That's cool to see. So the icebreaker question we like to ask, which is always great when you're traveling. If you guys do a lot of shows, then I'm sure you eat at a lot of interesting places. So if you could eat anywhere with anyone in any location, where would it be? If you guys have anything in particular that comes to mind.
Well, we just ate at Fresco's Italian restaurant out here in Orlando, which is fantastic. It's a family-owned place, and so that's always good. And you can have Italian any time of the day. So
true, that's true. Yeah,
breakfast is my favorite meal, and if I was to have breakfast, it would probably be just a simple egg sandwich on an English muffin, but I would do that with Gordon Ramsay watching the Masters today.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah, that's cool. So we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, behind you is a pretty bright display that gives you an idea of what we're going to talk about here. So hopefully this should be an interesting conversation for people that are either familiar with what you guys do or not familiar with what you do. Because as we've talked about when we had Alan on, I think this is a product that a lot of sign shops would have a very easy time adding on, and many of them just aren't familiar with it, so don't really get to talk about it. So I said, since we last talked, what's really changed about EMC boards in the market in the last 12, 24 months?
Well, overall, we're continuing to see an evolution in savings within power consumption, higher brightness, higher contrast ratios. Obviously, price points are dropping as well as we continue to refine and the technology continues to mature. And then obviously we have a lot of layers of technology that are now embedded, from flip chip to COB, common cathode technology. And so all of these things are layers in some cases, or MIP, for instance, that are layered in, and they're all translating to higher performance, better, wider viewing angles, lower power consumption, and higher output. The watts per square meter continues to drop as we continue to increase performance.
Yeah. What are you guys hearing from shops that have maybe historically been doing this and have seen, what do they think about the changes in the last, 2-3 years?
Well, I kind of had a different thought on this question, and it was really kind of geared towards, our market is kind of being flooded with some lower technology, you go onto social media and you're scrolling through Reels or TikTok and you're seeing advertisements for low quality, low spec products, and they're kind of flooding the market. So it almost appears like it's the sign shops are fighting that race to the bottom, where really what they want is they want profitable growth with reasonable margins.
Yeah, and I think to add to that is we have this, we see this a lot, with Unilumin. We're the largest LED manufacturer out there, tier 1. We build a lot of product even for other manufacturers as well. It's one of those things where if people come into me and say, hey, I want an LED display and I want to use it for 3 months just for a retail campaign, I'm going to throw it away. Guess what? We're not the answer, because we're going to have a high quality product that's going to last 10, 15 years, and then we'll still have a value that can be sold into maybe a lower end market or a house of worship or someone who just can't afford to buy new, and it's going to continue to run. So there's a reason why Fortune 500 companies rely on our product line, because when they make these large investments, especially very expensive ones in the tens of millions of dollars in some cases, they need to know that that product is going to last 10, 15 plus years. It's not going to have service issues, because that's a real big cost right there. And it says a lot. It's a testament to their own brand and who they are. If you have your name in lights and it's always failing, or part of your letters are missing, that's a direct reflection of your company, and that says a lot. And so there's a reason why you want to look at a quality product from a manufacturer, and not only that, but even long term, you want to have it to where you have somebody that that's going to be here. Right? You're not going to buy something in 6 months to a year, the company's gone. And now what do? How do you get service? How do you get help?
Yeah. We always joke about companies, and this is across the board, but especially for you guys, right? But even on equipment here, like printers and laminators, where a new company will come into the market and you've never heard of them before, right? And their product has a 2-year warranty, and you're going, how can you offer a 2-year warranty? You've been in business 27 days. What is this 2-year warranty going to do any good? But on the other side of things, I think this market and this product in general is not one that does well to Reels and TikTok. Like you said, like LEDs are not something that looks real good when you try and showcase it. And so oftentimes when I think people are seeing these low cost products come up on their feed and they look good on the screen, and then you get them in person, right? And as you can see here with the different millimeter diodes that you have, sometimes it looks great when they show it to you on the screen. It shows up in your shop and it's blurry as can be from the distance you were trying to look at it. But there's no value add to these companies that are coming in with the low cost products that tell you that, like, hey, if you're trying to see it from, it's going to sit on the counter and they're going to look at it from a foot away, that's not going to work for you. And they will have no idea, because there's nobody there to tell them otherwise. They're just here to take orders. So
there's a lot of buyer risk as well. Some of these companies have no presence here at all. So when you're buying it, if there's a problem, I hope you're ready to have a lot of phone calls at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and then you're going to hope that they actually respond and actually send you what you need.
Yeah.
Because there'll be nothing you can do if they decide to not help you.
Yeah. Yeah, and you talked about earlier, like service is a big one. Like we just talked about this with a customer that was doing one in a casino, and that panel was 24 feet off the ground, right? Like it's not going to be an easy service if you need to go up there and get into that sign. Hopefully you would never need to, but if you're using a cheaper product, one service call will negate all savings that you had on the panel. So I think it's a really good point. You brought up earlier that the price has been coming down. Does that change? Do you think that widens the ideal customer base for some of these products?
It definitely does. We've seen a huge market growth in all markets across the board, just because as we're able to bring out more products at different price points, we're actually opening up markets that in the past people would look at and say, oh, I have to use an LCD panel, or I'm doing projection. And now they're going, wait a minute, I can buy an a direct view LED wall, in some cases for less than even a projection-based system now.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think it's gotten easier to use, easier to install than some of the other ones? Because what we've seen on, not even in electronic message boards themselves, but in other industries, the original products that came into the industry were difficult. They often went out pretty frequently. So customers adapted them early, had a horrible experience, then never came back. Do you see the ones now being so much easier, but the people that use the original ones are having a hard time adapting to those changes or getting used to the new product, I guess? From my point of view, it's definitely gotten a lot easier. We have higher precision cabinets as well, because it's been an evolution. So in the past, we didn't have as tight of tolerances before. So now we are well exceeding those tolerance levels and the level of precision in the cabinets with pin positioning and all that, where you can basically just stack tiles together and they're ready to go without any adjustment. 20 years ago, we would have to do shimming on every single tile in order to get it right. And it still wasn't perfect. Now the tiles themselves will click in. The only key thing that people need to realize is that the mount is important.
A lot of people look at it and go, oh, I don't see it, it's not important, and so they'll cheap out there. And so they'll spend all this money. It's basically buying a Ferrari and then putting the cheapest tires on it. The car is not going to perform. It's the same exact thing. Is you got to be aware of that. Now, there is a big chasm between the different types of options, but that's why it's important to work with like Unilumin and Electro-Matic, because we're going to help get you into the product that you need, as well as use the correct mounting solution. That's not going to be overpriced, but it's going to be fit for that purpose.
Yeah. So the point of this podcast originally was we wanted to bring conversations that are happening at trade shows to virtual. And the problem I see with that is like when I just saw this display that's sitting over here on the ground, and I just go like, there isn't a video I could do that could show that to somebody in a way that gives you the same experience I had when I was here. When they just show it to me and it immediately is like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
And then show you how it goes together. Like you just said, where literally it's just a magnet and they just snap together. It's like this. When I explained it to you in video and I showed it to you, it'd be like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Versus if you saw it in person, and it's a totally different experience. So I bring that up to say, like, if you can ever get to see it, if this is interesting to you, I know you guys have some demo facilities too. The new stuff that you guys have is unbelievably cool to look at as well. So
we have experience centers all over the country, and then on top of that, we also have demo systems. So depending on the environment, we can actually bring those systems to you in order to be able to demonstrate in that exact environment to make sure that you're making the right decision. And sometimes there could be a little bit of gray area of, do I do a 1.2? Do I do a 1.5? And some of that is there's not a law to that. It's more of what's preference, and a combination of preference and also budget constraints.
Yeah.
So, we do a lot of on-site demonstrations because we primarily focus with outdoor signs. So really getting the customer to understand that technology, explaining to them what different pixel pitches mean. We look at the application where it's going to be installed, what side of the road is going to be on, how high in the air, how big is it, what are their viewing lines, and really educate them and hone them down on a product that works for that particular application. Anytime that we get into an environment where we're co-selling, we have an extremely high close rate when we have those meetings, because anytime that a customer takes the time out of their day to learn more about the technology, that they're a qualified buyer at that point. So once we have those meetings, do those product demonstrations, we usually walk away with the customer.
Yeah. What are the mistakes you guys are seeing they would be making if they weren't having those type of meetings with you to go over where is it, what size do I need, all that kind of stuff?
I would say buyer's remorse. And we've seen that for many, many years in this industry. A graphic designer can do a great job rendering what a sign looks like. And then a sign company might just take an assumption or make an assumption of what they think that the customer wants, and then they get it, and it's completely not what they were expecting, because they see something that looks like a beautiful picture, right? Well, then they get something that's 16 millimeter, it's a little grainy, it's maybe a little small, it wasn't the right product. So buyer's remorse is something that we really, really make great efforts to avoid.
Yeah. We've seen that in resolution and fidelity, and I've even seen that in brightness, where you'll have sometimes people are speccing a product that's really designed more for indoor in a semi-outdoor environment, and they don't have the horsepower to compete with the sun and the daylight. And so,
Alan brought it up in the last episode where he said sometimes like the difference between just one step up from what the sign they currently have quoted and the next one is not a big price jump, and the quality or the brightness may be so significant that they should make that jump. But if nobody shows them the difference, it's oftentimes they'll just get it up and, like you said, have buyer's remorse about like, well, I think it could have been a little better, and all it was just making that decision at one point. So I think that's a good point. So I think obviously managing what goes on the sign is a huge part of this as well. What tools do you guys have to help manage the software and the content that goes on the sign for these?
Well, from our end, our View software is completely cloud-based. So the way that we handle that when a customer buys a display from us is, first of all, they go through a webinar. It's a one-on-one training with an inside software trainer. But the big thing that we need to spend time with end users is, especially on the outdoor side where I'm at, A lot of small businesses or a church or a school, they're not graphic designers, right? So you really have to take the time to teach them to think that way a little bit. So you have to teach them what are the right images to use, what are the right fonts to use, what are, contrasting colors. You have to teach them to be a graphic designer. So I spend a lot of time in the field doing that. And that's one of the reasons why I think customers will have a little bit of a better overall experience, because I take the time to do that.
Yeah, and the other big thing is we also have what we call our eco partners. So we have content houses, we have creative houses that we can get people connected with. And so we're really a total solution, although we're only an LED manufacturer. Yeah. And obviously Electro-Matic does all kinds of integration, and they're our distributor and adds a lot of extra value. But we even have a lot of other resources and partnerships out there that we can bring in for unique situations that highly specialize and are experts in those exact fields to help bridge that gap and create that total solution.
Sorry to interrupt you guys, but I just want to take a minute to talk about Nakusa, the name behind R-Tape. R-Tape's the #1 application tape out there, but they are more than just tape now. Nakusa has a full range of products out there. Their new one is called Nextbond. This is a UV cured adhesive. Why does that matter? It's an eco-friendly and durable option, but comparable to most of the eco-friendly options, this is a cost-effective product. So if you're looking for an eco-friendly product or a durable product, or just in general a good vinyl, Nextbond is going to be the one for you. This is available at Wensco.com as well as all of their other products. So check it out at Wensco or reach out if you have any questions. Oh, and don't forget to use your Nakusa bucks. Have you guys, this one isn't in the question, so feel free to, we can skip it if you don't have a good answer for it. But what are some of the unique applications you've seen on the content side of these display boards that are out there in terms of messages or videos or displays that you've seen that have either worked really well or just been a really interesting application for a DMC board?
There, certain things like, for instance, naked eye, which is that 3D dimensional type effect that you'll get, where you'll have that 3D dimension that's more of an inward 3D experience. Yeah. We've seen that in a lot of cases where you've got a lot of corner walls that we're seeing now with mitered walls, which really kind of add a different flair. I would say, and say, get out of the box. Even though majority of stuff, what we do out there is going to be squares and rectangles, but if you have opportunities to have wavy walls, curved walls, circular walls, corner walls, miters, it does allow the eye to get caught a lot easier because it's different. Because we have become a little bit numb to just 16:9 screens now, right? We've been dealing with that. So being able to do creative stuff like that, and then having content that's designed for those applications is really important. I deal with a lot of stuff from regular signage to all the way to virtual production and local-based entertainment. And so you've got to really look at each application differently. The technology sometimes is the same, but how we deliver it and what you're delivering will matter a lot. And a big key thing is, like, for instance, in the cinema space or in virtual production space, you have to have a resolution that is better than the human eye, because the technology has to be 100% invisible, because you are immersing your experience. However, with regular signage, you can actually lax those specs a little bit and have a little bit of granularity in certain cases, and you're not losing the message, you're not losing the experience. But really understanding each of those applications and then tying the types of content with those experiences is really, really key. And if you have the option to be able to leverage things like a naked eye, that's definitely going to be something that's going to add a lot of extra value and a lot of extra dwell time in people looking at it, because it's going to be different.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of these in interiors. Like, I believe you guys put one in the airport by us too, when I talked to Alan about it last time, where it's like a whole thing, right? And you have people that are there for hours, right? And if you just had one static image there, they're going to look at it one time and then it's done, right? Versus if you have that one is like video and everything on it by the time it's all said and done. And you're going to get, 10, 12, 13, 14 different versions of your company in front of somebody, because they're there for a while, that you wouldn't get if it was just a static image, or even if it was just like a scrolling, this is on sale, here's what we're doing this week type stuff. So yeah, I think that's interesting. What are the applications that you guys are seeing message boards grow in outside of just standard pylon signage type work?
Well, what we're seeing an increase really is in sports. High schools are now really investing a lot of money into digital displays for football fields or basketball arenas and things like that. So that's one of the areas that I've seen a lot of growth.
Yeah, and you're seeing a lot more where there's a level of interactivity or engagement that you're trying to immerse people more in, instead of it just being a sign across the way of the scoreboard, of creating elements around that kind of bring that digital experience around you and more in you. And then also it allows for dynamic messaging. Even in having areas where you have it above concession stands, for instance, where, hey, I don't have to worry about missing the game. I can come and if I have to step away, I still have the ability, I can see the game, but still maybe have other types of experiences that are fun, that are unique. So when you get out there, you're not just going for one thing. You're actually getting an experience from the moment you walk in that door to the actual main event and everything in between.
Are you guys seeing a lot of people move away from, when you talk about concession stands, move away from more of like the TV, they'll have like 1, 2, 3, 4 TVs mounted, and moving more towards electronic message centers?
Yeah, you're definitely seeing a big reduction in what we call the old video walls, for sure, because of the you basically have bezels that needs to go away with, and even some LCD products that are out there that are bezel-less, they still have physical gaps that are much larger. And so with LED, we can be completely seamless because of the tolerances that we have, and so that allows you to get more creative, doing larger displays with not having lines in it. We used to see that in TV shows years ago, where they would actually impose lines because it was something that we knew of as being big giant video walls. And now that's gone away because it takes you out of the experience. And more we're seeing that level of immersion, and it's very important.
With software too, we can do things like content zoning. So we can have maybe 2 or 3 different content zones on a display, or we can mix it up and have 2 content zones or 1 content zone. So it's a little bit more immersive for the person that's viewing that screen. So there's so much flexibility with it today.
Yeah, and a lot of and also advertising is a big deal. And so when you're looking at like schools, for instance, a lot of them work on sponsorships, and those sponsorships are always changing. And so right now they have to always change vinyls out. They have to there's a lot of work. Or with the digital canvas, it's literally just put it on screen, and you can change it dynamically. You can also have even more sponsors in that same space, which you normally can't do with static signage.
Yeah, I think it's interesting with that you brought it up that they used to impose the lines in there, and now they don't need to do that, obviously, because of how boards have changed. The other one, like I talked about, the one that's sitting over there, like if you compare that to, there's a TV literally right behind you guys that I'm looking at here. If you had these at the same distance, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference if they were the same size. You wouldn't know if it was a TV or a display, just because of how good the quality has gotten. What other changes in the actual LED technology have you guys seen recently, or even like here at the show?
So yeah, like as mentioned previously, COB has been out for quite some time, but it's really evolved. It's really at a point now where COB is really, really good. I was there during the early adoption, and we knew you had to look at where it was going to go. And now we're there, and we're providing products at incredibly low prices because it's a lot easier and more affordable. It's allowing us to go into tighter pixel pitches, down to like 0.7, for instance. And they're cool to the touch, right? They're low power consumption. Like our U Mini, you could have up to 27 cabinets in a 0.9 with 1,000 net output on one 120 amp circuit.
That's crazy.
Which is incredible because you have COB technology, we're doing flip chip technology, and then we're also doing common cathode layered on that. And in some cases, we're seeing up to 46% power reduction with even higher outputs. And they're cool to the touch. That also means lower BTUs. The product, as you know, is already very approachable. But the old LEDs, they were approachable. You get there and you feel a little bit of a furnace going on.
Sure.
Now, completely cool to the touch. So those are really big deals that we're seeing. And then on top of that, our latest evolution is MIP. So for instance, we are the largest tier 1 manufacturer, and we produce all of our own MIP. And so MIP is the next level of COB, where we're encapsulating the diodes, but we're doing it on a diode level instead of on a module level. So we get even better physical scene performance, and we're getting higher brightness outputs with still that low power consumption. And so you're going to see more of MIP in the coming years, for sure.
Do you want to, just for people that aren't super familiar with the signs, do you want to explain like what is COB and what was it, MIP? Is that what you said for the other one?
So COB is chip on board. So basically we have a board and we basically print the diodes directly on the board directly. So you remove a lot of layers of complexity that also adds resistance. And also you increase your viewing angle as well. So you get much wider viewing angles. And then of course we're using on COB, we're using flip chip technology where we've inverted the diode so you don't have a lead at the top, so you get better telemetry. You don't get any blocking of light. And then on top of that also because of that not having that lead, that helps reduce power consumption even more and heat dissipation. And then we're also doing common cathode technology where we're basically driving each of the primary diodes at the correct voltages versus driving them at say 4.2 or 4.6, and then basically you're using resistance to burn off the heat of the energy that they don't use. So all of that is bundled into COB. MIP does the same exact thing. The only difference is how we encapsulate the diodes now.
Yeah. The thing that I really see with the common cathode power supplies, with the energy consumption is, there's a cost to run this technology, outdoor signs, indoor signs, whatever it is. But, to reduce the return on investment for the customer is a real thing. And, even the cost to get electrical circuits into a display, there's an added cost if you have more circuits or, need higher ramp draws or whatever. So, I love talking about it, and I love the fact that it's going to extend the life of that LED as well.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen that on just modules for standard signage at this point too. Like the efficiency has gotten so high that when you explain it to a customer who's used to using some of the older technologies out there, you're like, yeah, you can run, I can run 2 bags on one supply. Like, yeah, okay, sure. You're like, no, I promise you, we've tried it, and it's just the technology has gotten so good. And the savings compared to some of the old stuff that's out there is just it's just getting ridiculous to the point where you could replace some of the signs that are still up and working just on, energy savings alone, which I think is crazy.
We're seeing now where we're going in and doing screen refreshes, we're doubling the resolution and we're cutting the power consumption in half, which means you don't have to add any infrastructure. It's just you're going to have a bunch of extra circuits now that you don't have to worry about. And so they're lowering their operating costs, and yet they're increasing their overall performance.
Yep. What verticals are Electro-Matic and Unilumin currently supporting outside of just, I will say, standard message boards or any other things that
for
sign shops should?
Everything.
Okay.
We do everything. So from sports to virtual production, the Unilumin group itself, we, I think, control about 80% of the market share for virtual production and broadcast spaces. Sports, especially overseas, we've got Manchester City, we've got all of Spain. The majority of the soccer clubs are Unilumin as well, and you're going to see more Unilumin sports in the U.S. now. We're on a real big heavy drive here as well, so we're bringing a lot of that to the U.S. market now, and then of course, we're in regular signage space, local-based entertainment for theme parks, immersions. We do a lot of museums. So pretty much everything. We build products for about every single market. Yes.
Yeah. I asked that question. Our primary audience is sign shops, right, who are out there just making signs every day, and you're saying what jobs are they going to run into that say like, oh, hey, here's who I need to call. So that gives you a pretty good idea that if you need a board, I think you guys pretty much have it covered, is what it sounds like from that perspective. So what new products are you guys showing off here at the booth or in the next few months, I guess, as well?
Yeah, so we have our U Natural is one. It's basically a COB product, low power consumption, high brightness, but it has custom prints on there. So when the wall is in its off state, it doesn't look like a wall. It could look like a marble backdrop or brick or whatever you want. And so there's a lot of environments, especially in a lot of indoor lobbies, where they don't want it to feel that there's just a giant LED screen in there.
Yeah.
So you can have little touches where you can have it act as a screen, but in some cases you could have it to where it's completely invisible as a screen. So we're debuting that here. We also have our posters, which is the same thing as COB technology in multiple resolutions. These are little carts that you can bundle up to 6 of them together and make one solid screen, or you can slice them up into 6 different sections and basically use them all over, and they're independently driven. So we're showing that. We've got our large outdoor LED. We've got our Series 5, right, which is for outdoor, which is the smartest outdoor display technology we've got embedded into the product, and that's here today. That's really being driven 100% through Electro-Matic for that technology, which is great. And then we have just standard LED as well.
What I think is great about that Unilumin product is the number of designers that have come into the booth just as of yesterday and sat and looked at it and were amazed by that, and people and they went and brought other people into the booth just to see that. It's great to see this evolving technology and just thinking completely out of the box.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. In 2026, G2G and Wensco will launch 2 new products into the market. The one is the United Stick, which is a high efficiency, affordable, and reliable product for your sign and lighting projects. The second is LumaLink, which has a power pin design that's made to be cut and done anywhere in the field or in your shop. This is for small channel letters or any large projects. Check them out at wensco.com. This episode is brought to you by Arlon Graphics, trusted for innovative high-performance cast vinyls. Check out their newest product, DPF V9500, a non-PVC polyurethane wall film built to tackle ultra-textured surfaces like a pro. More exciting new products to come soon from Arlon. Check them all out at wensco.com. Is there any new technologies that you guys see coming in this space that people should be aware of?
Well, we've always done creative LED, but we've really put a big level of emphasis on expanding creative. We're seeing a lot more people wanting to do domes, spheres, corners, cubes, just exotic shapes. So we can already do that. We've done it for many, many years. And you guys will end up seeing a couple giant spheres for FIFA coming up that are ours as well. Nice. In the U.S. market. So I think we're going to see more of that. We're going to continue to see an evolution of technology. We're not done yet. Our power consumption savings are going to continue to improve. Our outputs are going to continue to improve. Our pixel pitch is going to continue to get tighter and tighter, because as we're starting to see, there's a lot more experiences that are outdoor, but the audience is very close. Yeah. And so we now have a 1.9 and a 1.5 MIP outdoor, cool to the touch. That's IP66. Yep. And so, we're really just going to continue to see an expansion in all directions, as well as even with the current lines continuing to evolve.
Yeah. Have you guys seen a big growth in people doing like the columns outside of like convention centers is a great example. I know like in Vegas, you see somewhere the whole column is basically just an LED board now. How that works, someone would have to explain it to me in detail, but are you guys seeing a lot of growth in like that type of application where it's like no longer flat application, way more curved or flexed or circular or whatever shape that may be?
Yeah, I would say we're definitely probably seeing a lot more curved screens. We have a lot of flex products as well. I wouldn't say that it's growing as fast as just the regular industry is with displays, because there's so many new markets that are now able to touch LED. But we are seeing a growth there. And I think in a lot of cases, people are wanting to, even if you have a lot of signage everywhere, people are trying to at least create some kind of iconic wall or experience somewhere within their venue, which would be either a sphere or a column or some weird exotic shape just that stands out.
Makes sense. We're getting harassed now here in the booth, which is kind of how it works here. So I only have one question left. I really appreciate you guys. This has been a great conversation. As somebody who's not super familiar with this space, I love sitting down and getting to talk about it. So hopefully everyone that listened got as much value as I did just sitting here and listening. So if a shop is using, let's just say one of your competitor products that are looking, what's something you would say that would encourage them to take a look at what you guys are doing here and switch over?
Well, in the outdoor space where I spend most of my time, there's some really good companies out there, but, they're looking for an alternative. And, if we can actually support them better than what they're currently getting supported, they're going to have a better experience overall. And, ultimately what we try to do is convince people that, we're here for you. We want to educate you. We want to co-sell with your teams. When you have new salespeople come in, we want to help train them on the technology so that they know what they're talking about when they get out in the field. So there's a lot of benefits to just, really being actively involved in their business, because it is a big part of their business model to sell digital displays for most traditional electric sign shops.
Yeah, and I would say just, it's coupled by experience and looking at the infrastructure. We have several facilities in the U.S. We stock over 26 million in inventory in the U.S. I don't believe any manufacturer is doing that. We have on-site repair centers, plus we do field deployment. We have field engineers. We have a lot of support infrastructure in place. And then we have our eco partners, and we have just a giant network that you get access to when you're working with us. So we see those as all huge added values. And then we have a lot of folks that have been industry experts for a very long time that really have seen and evolved with the industry from the beginning. And all of that talent goes into assisting you with your solution.
That's perfect. Well, thank you guys again for coming on. We appreciate it. Hopefully this is valuable. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out to us at Wensco. We'll get you in touch. Alan's been a great resource for us as well. If not, I'll get the same contact info we had from the last episode. We'll put it in the description so you can reach out with any questions you have. But once again, thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate it. Hopefully you guys found this episode valuable, and we'll see you next time. So thanks and bye.
Thank you.